international relations in prelims. This is even mentioned in the syllabus. This is the syllabus now of UPSC. GS prelims paper 1. It's not even mentioned there, right? Okay. And then just see the number of questions asked in the last 3 years only. I'm not keeping well, so I couldn't do the analysis for last 5 years or 7 years, which I would have loved to. I just went for last 3 years. And that's what I'm looking at. 2021, 3 questions. 2022, 9 questions. 2023, 11 questions. 23 questions. On an average, 7 questions every year. 7 to 8 questions every year. How come? What they have mentioned here, if we look at it very carefully, current events of national and international importance, right? They are using this particular topic as an excuse. We call it current affairs, right? When I'll be going for the questions, you'll find they are not all from current affairs. No, they are not. But anyway, they're using this as an excuse to ask the questions. Let's see, for example, I'm going for the year 2021. Let's look at the 3 questions which were asked. This is question number 81 of 2021. What is it talking about? Right to the city is an agreed human rights and UN Habitat monitors the commitments made by each country in this regard. Right to the city gives every occupant of the city the right to reclaim public spaces and public participation in the city. Right to the city means that state cannot deny any public service or facility to the unauthorized colonies in the city. What they did, they clubbed international relations and polity. I'm looking at Universal Declaration of Human Rights, I'm looking at fundamental rights, I'm looking at international relations. All the 3 topics combined, this question gets framed. We are practically looking at a new era of question framing. The questions are essentially lengthier. More than tricky, they are lengthier. Anyone who's reading it properly, they know that this cannot be the case. This can never be there. Just to make you read unnecessarily, to consume some amount of time, they have given this particular option. In the first sight only, you can reject this particular option. You don't even have to use any brain here. It's a no-brainer. But they're making you read and consuming your time. Not just this question. If I carry on with the majority of the questions, see, look at the lengths. The next one. The Global Ocean Commission grants license for seabed exploration and mining in international waters. Really? Who grants? UNCLOS, United Nations Convention on Law of Seas. Right? We have been talking about EEZ in the class for last quite a few days. Right? We talked about the sovereign territory up to 12 nautical miles. Then we talked about the 200 nautical miles of EEZ, exclusive economic zone. Right? India has received license for seabed mineral exploration in international waters. Yes, why not? Exclusive economic zone is essentially part of the international waters. They are not part of India's sovereign territory. Just a while back, I told you that India's sovereign territory is the continental shelf up to 12 nautical miles. Beyond that 12 nautical miles, it's international waters. What India has is exclusive right to explore that. Point number 1. So that's not India's sovereign territory, or for any country. The EEZ is not its sovereign territory. Please try and understand. Rare earth minerals are present on seafloor in international waters. Just a few days back, we were talking about significance of South China Sea to China. I was talking about polymetallic nodules. Nah? Tell me. Use common sense. Simple common sense. You'll get the answers. Clear? Next one. 21st February is declared to be the International Mother Tongue Day by UNICEF. The demand that Bangla has to be one of the national languages was raised in the Constituent Assembly of Pakistan. Which of the above statements is or are correct? 1. Why not 2? Official language. Instead of national language, they went for official language. 2 official languages, Urdu and Bangla. Clear? I mentioned that clearly in the class. So I'm looking at this question. Believe me, I was really startled when I saw this question in 2021. Now, are you going to tell me that this is a question from current affairs? So how are they framing the questions? What are they going for? Chalo, we'll talk about that later on. Let's look at the questions first. Let's finish our survey of the questions first. I'm going for the year 2022. 9 questions, I told you. Starts with 88. In all the years, what I did, I started from the back. Right? 88. Consider following pairs, region often mentioned in news, country. Anatolia, Turkey. Right? Amhara, Ethiopia. Cabo Delgado, Spain. Catalonia, Italy. Catalonia is Italy. Think again. Catalonia, Spain. Okay. Previously, these kind of questions were asked from geography. They used to do these things from geography. All the areas which were mentioned in last 1 year in the current affairs, they used to take those questions and they used to frame these kind of questions from geography. They have changed it. Why? Majority of the geography faculties, they go for these kind of questions now. So now they shifted from geography to international relations. Same nature of questions. Right? Look at that. Consider the following pairs. Country, important reasons for being in the news recently. Chad, Democratic Republic of Chad, Africa. Setting up of permanent military base by China. Guinea. Suspension of constitution and government by military. Lebanon. Severe and prolonged economic depression. Tunisia. Suspension of parliament by president. Right? I'm typically looking at current affairs. This is current affairs. I have to admit. Okay? I'm going to go for all the 23 questions. Go through them. Check them out. Why check them out? I hope we all have been going through the newspapers for last 6 months at least. Right? And religiously, quite religiously. I want to show you something. That's why I'm going for this. Tell me how many of these questions you can answer from your newspaper. I know you have so many sources, right? Why just the Hindu? Some of you also go for the snippets prepared by so many institutes. Tell me. Next. Which one of the following statements best reflect the issue with Senkaku Islands, sometimes mentioned in the news? It is generally believed that they are artificial islands made by a country around South China Sea. Are they? China and Japan engage in maritime disputes over these islands in East China Sea. A permanent American military base has been set up there to help Taiwan to increase its defense capabilities. Though International Court of Justice declared them as no man's land, some Southeast Asian countries claim them. Which one? B? B. Today only we were talking about this in the class. We discussed how Japan is able to produce documents which show that from 1890s onwards, Japan has been administering those islands. But again comes China's claim. Since 1500 CE, China has these islands on their map. You can have anything on your map, man. You can have moon on your map. Right? That's Senkaku Islands. Next. So, am I going to say that Senkaku is exactly from current affairs? Senkaku is a long-standing issue. Right? With reference to United Nations Convention on the Law of Seas, consider the following statements. A coastal state has the right to establish breadth of its territorial sea up to a limit not exceeding 12 nautical miles, measured from baseline determined in accordance with the convention. Believe me, even I couldn't understand the meaning of the statement. Ship of all states, whether coastal or landlocked, enjoy the right of innocent passage to the territorial sea. Exclusive economic zone shall not extend beyond 200 nautical miles from the baseline from which the breadth of the territorial sea is measured. You sure? 1, 2, and 3. What you missed is the word sovereign is not mentioned here. I was not joking. When I said I couldn't make up any meaning from this particular statement, what I meant was that I'm not looking at the word sovereign. 2 and 3. Just one word missing. Clear? Read the options very carefully. This is what they do. With respect to 21st of February, they used national language instead of official language. Here, they omitted the word sovereign. Clear? And these are conceptual errors. These are conceptual questions. Consider the following countries: Armenia, Azerbaijan, Croatia, Romania, Uzbekistan. Which of the above are members of the Organization of Turkic States? What do we mean by Turkic states? No. Take out your phones. Search for the word Turkic state. Not Roman, but something else. Ottoman. Right. It was my mistake. Couldn't hear you properly. So what do we mean by Turkic states? What's Amit? So is Armenia part of it? Turkish speaking, we may say, right? Say, for example, Turkmenistan. It's a Central Asian country, but they speak Turkish, right? Chagtai Turk and so many others. Even Uzbekistan, right? Babar comes from Uzbekistan, not from Turkmenistan. But what was the mother tongue of Babar? Chagtai Turk. Urdu? Urdu is spoken in India, man. Urdu is a typical language from Deoband region of Uttar Pradesh. Deoband, Aligarh, that's the region where Urdu has its rights. Right? So that's what I'm looking at. Turkic states. Is Armenia part of the Turkic states? Uzbekistan is, Azerbaijan is. What about Romania? Practically Armenia, Croatia, Romania. Clear? Only two of them, 2 and 5. That's option C, which is the answer. Clear? Come back. Next one. Bidi is a large refugee settlement in northwestern Kenya. Some people who fled from South Sudan civil war live in Bidi. Some people who fled from civil war in Somalia live in Dadaab refugee camp or Dadaab refugee complex in Kenya. Right? Which one? Which one is right? Which of the statements given above either are correct? Don't have to go for this. It's a typical current affairs question from that year. There was a reason, there was some kind of attack on Bidi. Based on that, this question was raised. Right, come back. Consider the following countries: Azerbaijan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan. Which of the above have borders with Afghanistan? Three, 4, and 5? 3, 4, and 5. Now do you realize why I always suggest to go for the maps while studying international relations? Whenever you're finding some new place, go for the map. See where it is. See where the location is. 3 reasons. Obviously, nowadays, this particular trend of questions is there. That's one of the reasons. Primary reasons are geopolitics, that is geostrategy, and geoeconomics. Both of them. Without knowing that particular location, without knowing its geographic location, you will never be able to appreciate what they are doing and why they are doing that. Let me ask you, why people are so bothered about Arctic region? Forget about all of these things. Why this? Practically, I'm looking at a race going on. India, Russia, China, Russia. And then on the other hand, I'm also looking at USA, Canada. They are also trying to do something. What's going on there? So we'll take the ice and we'll throw at each other. Not just new trade routes, I'm also looking at the mineral deposits, the reserves. I'm looking at a good amount of oil reserve as well. And 60% of the Arctic is owned by Russia. Clear? Chalo. The term Levant, often heard in the news, roughly corresponds to which of the following regions? Region along the eastern Mediterranean shores, region along North African shores stretching from Egypt to Morocco, region along Persian Gulf and Horn of Africa, the entire coastal area of Mediterranean Sea. Again, a very trick question, unique question, a trick question. Ever heard about Islamic State? What was the first name of Islamic State? They have changed their name 4 times. For the first time, the name came up was ISIL. Then the name came up ISIS. Then came the name Daesh. Today we know them as Islamic State. What was the full form of ISIL? Islamic State of Iraq and Levant. Levant. Syria. Where is that place? Region along the eastern Mediterranean shores. Nothing. Keep your head cool. You can answer them. That's what UPSC essentially does. They play with your psychology. They play with your mindset. Clear? Come back. Rapid financing instrument and rapid credit facility are related to the provisions of lending by which one of the following? Which particular blank goes for rapid financing instrument and rapid credit facility? Asian Development Bank, International Monetary Fund, United Nations Environment Program, Finance Initiative, World Bank. Clear? Chalo. I'm going for 2023. Okay. Consider the following statements about G20. The G20 group was originally established as a platform for the finance ministers and central bank governors to discuss the international economic and financial issues. Digital public infrastructure is one of India's G20 priorities. Both 1 and 2? Right. Again, I'm looking at typical current affairs. Right? This is 2023. This issue was raised, the last issue was raised by India. And that's why I'm looking at this question. Okay? 98. In the recent years, Chad, Guinea, Mali and Sudan caught the international attention for which one of the following reasons common to all of them? Discovery of rich deposits of rare earth elements, establishment of Chinese military bases, southward expansion of Sahara Desert, successful coup. Successful coup. Though one thing, let me tell you, southward expansion of Sahara is also a very big reality. Every year, I'm looking at the Sahara to expand 4 meters towards the south. Given global warming, Sahara is expanding. One country after another, Mauritania and others, they're falling victim to Sahara, right? The area which we previously used to call as sub-Saharan Africa is now being practically eaten by Sahara. It's no more sub-Saharan Africa. It's becoming part of Sahara only. Okay? Chalo. Area of conflict mentioned in news. Country where it is located. Donbass, Syria, Kachin, Ethiopia, Tigray, North Yemen. Where is Donbass? Donbass and Donetsk. Right? Where is Kachin? Kachin state. Scold you like anything, ma'am. While discussing India-Myanmar relationship, I showed you Kachin state, bordering China. Myanmar's province bordering China. It came up in the map. You are not there? If Rakhine or Arakan is bordering Bangladesh and India, Kachin is bordering China. Right? Myanmar. Clear? Come back. Israel has established diplomatic relations with some Arab states. Statement number 1. Statement number 2. The Arab Peace Initiative mediated by Saudi Arabia was signed by Israel and Arab League. Which of the statements are right? Again, I'm looking at the similar type of question. North Kivu and Ituri. War between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Nagorno-Karabakh. Insurgency in Mozambique. Kherson and Zaporozhye. Practically none of them are matched rightly. Nagorno-Karabakh is Armenia, Azerbaijan. Right? North Kivu and Ituri, Africa. Okay. With respect to North Kivu and Ituri, I would like to tell you something here. Ordinarily, we think those issues which are in news right now, they are the most significant ones, and we just jump into them. Don't. You need to cover current affairs of last 3 years at least. UPSC especially prefers those issues which have gone to the back burner. An issue which is too hot, you'll never find a question from there. Never ever. Right? Kivu and Ituri, North Kivu, South Kivu and Ituri, they were in news primarily in 2021. In 2023, some references came. And see, question from there being mentioned here. right? You may ask me ki current affairs of 1 year is not being covered by us. And I'm talking about 3 years. I'll simplify that. Hold on. Next question. Recently, all countries of the United Nations have adopted the first ever compact for international migration. The Global Compact for Safe, Orderly and Regular Migration, GCM. The objectives and commitments stated in the GCM are binding on the UN member countries. The GCM addresses internal migration or internally displaced people also in its objectives and commitments. Take out your phones, search for GCM. Search for GCM UN. See. I don't know whether I'm being able to make the point reach you or not, whether I'm being able to show you what to do or not. When we keep on studying without looking at the previous year's questions, nothing more horrendous can be than that. In my class as well, I have been telling you again and again, please look at the previous year's questions, whether in the optional classes or in GS classes, right? Always go for the previous year's questions. Okay. What is GCM? So what should be the answer? Only one. Okay. Next. The Stability and Growth Pact of the European Union is a treaty that limits the level of the budgetary deficit of countries of European Union, makes the countries of the European Union to share their infrastructure facilities, enables the countries of European Union to share their technologies. Again, why I'm talking about this particular question? We could have these are nearly similar questions. I could have glossed over them rather. Why I'm looking at them? This issue is not from 2023. It's from 2022. Obviously, I'm talking about the pigs economies, right? Let's not call them pigs. Let's have some decency, some respect towards them. Again, this statement, Switzerland is one of the leading exporters of gold in terms of value and all that thing. Nonsense. Let's look at that one as well. Which one of the following countries has been suffering from decades of civil strife and food shortage and was in news in the recent past for its very severe famine? Tell me which year. 22 April. People were talking about Ukraine and Russia. That country was suffering the most. I'm looking at 80% of the population of the country going foodless. No one talked about them. Why? Blacks. You want me to believe that we have evolved from racism? Really? Consider the following countries: Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania. How many of the above mentioned countries share a land border with Ukraine? Again, go for the map. That's what I'm looking at. Clear? I know you won't be able to answer this because we have not reached India-Russia relationship yet in the class. Once we go for that, obviously we'll be looking at the maps. You'll be able to answer this question. But now do you realize why the first class I asked you people to have the atlas with you? The reason for that. Okay. The key takeaways that I have from here, what I'm essentially concerned about: difference in approach between preliminary examination and mains examination, because now I hope I have been able to establish that international relations is significant for both prelims and for mains. Are you going to ignore a topic from where 11 questions are being asked in a year? Can you do that? 11 questions out of 100 questions are being asked from one topic, and can you ignore that topic? So now the question is not about whether to study international relations from the perspective of prelims or not. The question is, what are the differences between the two? And the second one, how to prepare current affairs for prelims. That too from the point of view of international relations. Let's talk about the first topic first. Go deep, not broad. Right? Why do you think in the class I always start from the background stories? Let's talk about this conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Why is it happening? We know because of Nagorno-Karabakh. Why? So? Ally of Russia, so they have to take out swords and fight with others. So what? I'm starting to look at the area from the time of Ottoman Turkish Empire. These countries, they were essentially part of Ottoman Turkish Empire. When I'm looking at Armenians, they're Christians, essentially, Coptic Christians. The world's one particular community who can claim the tag of the most oppressed community. They are the Armenians. Under Ottoman Turkish Empire, you have no idea the way they have been massacred. Good amount of Armenians came to India as well. The city I come from, Kolkata, there is a particular area called Armenian Street, and there's one Armenian Orthodox church. Calcutta was the capital of British India. Those Armenians who came, they settled there. One of the ladies of Armenian origin, who was the first Indian to record her voice, Gauhar Jan, record her songs. She's the first Indian woman whose voice was recorded. But she was essentially an Armenian, a person of Armenian origin. Okay? When I'm looking at that area, not just Armenia, I'm also looking at Nagorno-Karabakh. Nagorno-Karabakh is essentially within Azerbaijan. But exactly what Gagan said is right. The population is mostly of Armenian descent, Christians. Okay. When, by the end of Second World War, we will see these territories to be captured by Soviet Union. They'll become part of Soviet Union. Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan. Why by Second World War? This actually became part of the Russian Empire long time back. For your information, Joseph Stalin was a Georgian. He was not a Russian. Okay? Azerbaijan is the first country in the world where oil was discovered. Okay? Why am I bombarding you with facts? Looking at the nature of the questions. Okay, anyway, let's come back. These facts, these are fun facts. They help us remember and they help us understand the perspective. Anyway, let's come back. So it was during Russian Empire only, Russian Empire under Tsar, that these territories would be captured by the Russians from the Ottoman Turkish Empire. And they'll become part of the Russian Empire. Later on, they'll become part of Soviet Union. The whole Russian Empire became Soviet Union, right? 1917, October 1917, Bolshevik Revolution. 1991, when Soviet Union disintegrated, these countries became independent. 1991 itself, I'm looking at Armenia and I'm looking at Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan, a Muslim majority country, Armenia, a Christian majority country. And there immediately would be a war with respect to control over Nagorno-Karabakh. So way back in 1991, the first war took place. the Armenian army was far more disciplined, well structured, though smaller in size, but they defeated the Azerbaijani army comprehensively and captured the Nagorno-Karabakh region. Okay? A few years back, for the first time, we would see bolstered or supported by Turkey. Right? What is Turkey? Turkey. The name of the country has got changed, for your information. 2021, Turkey would launch a campaign to rebrand themselves. Right? In Hindi, people say Turkey, right? The original pronunciation was always Turkey. So the Turkish government, they would launch a campaign to rebrand the country as Turkey in 2021. 2022, they would appeal in front of the United Nations to rename the country properly, officially, in the works of United Nations. January 2023, United Nations would accept that request and the country will be called as Turkey. And even the US state government would accept the name of the country as Turkey. Since then, the name of the country is Turkey. Okay. Turkey has come up as one of the major weapon suppliers in the region. I don't know whether you know about this or not. Pakistan is buying attack helicopters from Turkey. Right? The drones built by Turkey, cheap yet effective. Right? Those drones actually, they would become the primary deal breaker in Azerbaijan-Armenia conflict. Azerbaijan would be able to use the drones effectively, quite effectively, and they were able to defeat Armenia in 2018-2019 for the first time when the issue was coming up. During that time, Russia played a major role and Russia brought back normalcy in the region. Azerbaijan is getting support from two countries, Turkey on one hand, Iran on the other hand. Right? 2022, once Russia got engaged with, and not only Russia, India also made an intervention in the war that was going on. India would help bring back normalcy. India also sold some weapons to Armenia. Okay. India has business relations with both the countries, Armenia as well, Azerbaijan as well. In fact, in Baku, there is good amount of Indian investments, even in the oil assets of Azerbaijan. Anyway, let's come back. So this time, after February 2022, when the Russia-Ukraine war started, Azerbaijan realized, okay, now Russia cannot interfere. They again attacked Armenia. Clear? So this is re-escalation of the conflict. That's what I'm looking at. But just imagine, if I have to study this conflict properly, if I have to know why this thing is going on, I have to start studying from the time of Ottoman Turkish Empire. I'm practically looking at religious discord. Religious, ethnic and cultural discord. That's the primary reason. Do you realize what's the meaning of this statement? Go deep, not broad. Whenever an issue is coming up, do know why that is happening. Let's talk about Ukraine-Russia conflict. Why is this conflict happening? What led to this conflict? I know we have not touched India-Russia relationship yet. Crimea is 2013, 2014. I would love to look at 1921, you know, something that happened 100 years back. We always go for the recent developments, don't. That will never allow you, that will never help you understand why this severe discord, why they can't live together. What led to this? Before I start discussing Russia-Ukraine conflict, let me make a statement. Every country who tried to play with their agricultural productivity paid the price severely. While discussing India-Sri Lanka relationship, I told you how Sri Lanka tried to play with its agricultural productivity. The so-called strongman president would announce overnight, from tomorrow onwards, we are going for organic farming. This is not the first time. Before Sri Lanka, I'm looking at China. And before China, I'm looking at Russia, Soviet Union, to be more precise. In China as well, in 1960s, they would go for commune-based system, cooperative farming. Mao Zedong would come up with the idea of cooperative farming and commune-based system of agriculture in China. More than 1 million people died. No one cared. Why no one cared? It's China. The world community hardly got any news. And inside China, they have decided something. The supreme leader has decided something. It has to be implemented. Same thing happened in Soviet Union. I'm looking at a practically crazy person called Joseph Stalin. All of a sudden, he would come up with the idea of, for the first time in the world, cooperative farming, changing the farming structure. Ukraine, essentially, I'll talk about two things of Ukraine. Number one, Ukraine has always been the granary of Europe. Agriculturally, Ukraine has always been blessed, right? Number two, the socio-economic and political structure of Ukraine had been feudal in nature. You can understand during the Russian Empire, during the time of Russian Empire, why this feudal system carried on properly. 1921, Joseph Stalin comes up with the idea that, nah, we'll change everything, we'll go for cooperative farming. Who paid the price? Common people of Ukraine paid the price. 1923, 1924, the horror that happened in that region, unthinkable. Why this horror? The Russians imposed some idea on the Ukrainians to change their socio-economic and political structure. I'm looking at the beginning of the civilizational clash. Ukraine remembered this. 1991, disintegration of Soviet Union. Ukraine becomes independent. But the politicians in Ukraine, who were the politicians, they were essentially pro-Russian. So there was hardly any problem. They were managing things. Okay. 2013, it essentially started from 2011. I'm looking at a slew of revolutions across countries. It will start with Tunisia. Okay? In Tunisia, a person who had a master's degree, who's a master's degree holder, was forced to sell vegetables. Why? No job, nothing. Mohammad Bouazizi. This guy, while streaming himself live on YouTube, would self-immolate. He'll put gasoline on himself, will burn himself. When Mohammad Bouazizi committed suicide while streaming himself live on YouTube, the youth of Tunisia will come down on streets and there would be a massive revolution in Tunisia. The dictator would be thrown out. Right? After this, in all the neighboring countries, one after another, revolution started. After Tunisia, I'm looking at Libya, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. Then I'm looking at Egypt, Hosni Mubarak. Then Syria. This way, finally, the revolution will reach Ukraine. Viktor Tymoshenko, the president of Ukraine, the pro-Russian president of Ukraine, Viktor Tymoshenko, against him. But in Ukraine, we will see quite a bit of unique things. When the revolution was starting, this revolution was originally, at first, the name of the revolution was Orange Revolution. Later on, they would rename the revolution as Maidan Revolution. Today, we know it as Self-Respect Revolution. Okay? So they have been changing the name of the revolution again and again, whatever it might be. When the revolution starts in Ukraine in 2013, we see quite a few statements from some of the international organizations. The first statement will come from European Union. European Union will say that if this revolution succeeds, European Union will make Ukraine part of European Union. They'll solve all the economic problems of Ukraine. Good. NATO comes up with a statement. NATO says that if this revolution succeeds, NATO will make Ukraine a part of NATO. And after this, NATO will take care of all the defense arrangements of Ukraine. Ukraine won't have to spend any money for its defense. They can completely concentrate on their development. All their economic resources can be concentrated on the economic development of Ukraine. Good. Not only that, the lady who was the American ambassador in Ukraine, we would see her to come down on the streets of Kyiv. Kyiv is capital of Ukraine. She'll be distributing packets of sandwiches and pouches of water among the revolutionaries. A revolution going on in Ukraine. What is the American ambassador doing there? You want me to believe that that revolution was pristine, untouched. It was all orchestrated. What was the reason? Just below Ukraine, if I look at Ukraine, especially if I look at that particular Black Sea region, okay? I do look at this kind of a territory here, a peninsula, Crimea, right? At the mouth of Crimea here, there is a naval base, a Soviet-era naval base called Sevastopol. Practically, whomsoever controls Sevastopol controls the whole of Black Sea. That's its location. And what is the significance of Black Sea? I'm looking at least 3 major oil pipelines on this side, 3 major oil pipelines on this side, going to Europe. You control Black Sea, you control the flow of oil through these pipelines. Right? This is what I'm looking at essentially. So practically, NATO's target in 2013 was this, Sevastopol. What happens? All of a sudden, some soldiers wearing black uniforms come up in Crimea. They block this particular mouth of Crimea, and then in Crimea, a plebiscite is held. They held a plebiscite. Plebiscite means people's vote. People voted. 98%, I don't know whether it's true or not, whether it's rigged or not, I know nothing. I just know the figure. The figure is 98% of the Crimeans voted in favor of joining Russia. Immediately, Russia would pass a resolution in Duma, the lower house of Russian parliament, making Crimea a part of Russia. And they'll construct a bridge as well, connecting Crimea with Russia. What happened? EU, NATO, they all prepared the cake. Russia came, ate the cream, went out. As simple as that. When this thing happened in 2014, mysteriously, European Union, NATO, they all forgot about Ukraine. They just left Ukraine. Okay? By 2022, I'm looking at some strong alliances coming up, especially Russia, China, Iran. And in this backdrop, NATO all of a sudden develops an idea that, okay, we can take our nuclear missiles and other weaponries and place them in Ukraine. Why? Ukraine shares border with Russia. If they can place these missiles and these weapons in Ukraine, they can easily target Russia. So discussion starts about Ukraine joining NATO. Just imagine 2014 till 2022, NATO was suffering from amnesia. They became Ghazni. Okay. All of a sudden they remembered, okay, no. We said something to Ukraine. When they remembered about Ukraine, when this thing started becoming a reality. In the backdrop of COVID-19 pandemic, we saw this alliance getting stronger, and all of a sudden NATO remembered. Right? When this discussion started about Ukraine joining NATO and NATO, the possibility of NATO placing these offensive weapons in Ukraine, that's when I see the attack to happen. Donetsk, Donbass, Zaporizhia, one area after another. I'm not defending Russia's position. Why? Maybe the initial attack happened as an act of self-defense by Russia, but the way the Russians use torture, rape and other kind of things as instrument of operation of the local Ukrainians, that's not acceptable. There have been cases where the husband was held at gunpoint, and in that condition, one Russian soldier after another raped the wife and then at the end shot both of them dead. These kind of things have also happened. So what the Russian soldiers did is nothing short of war crime. I'm not supporting that as well. Now do you realize why Finland, why those countries, they also decided, okay, we are going to be a part of NATO, but now we are not going to allow NATO to put any offensive weapon in our countries. Did Russia attack Finland? Finland is also joining NATO, right? Weapons of? Exactly. Finland said, okay, you can place defensive weapons, not the offensive weapons. So tell me, am I going to believe that the Ukrainians are so naive? They didn't understand anything, how they are being played by NATO. Clear? So this is the overall backdrop of the development. Now do you realize why the government of India decided not to interfere in this affair? Both the sides have their hands dirty. The government of Ukraine also knew what they're doing, and they're paying the price. Russia is also not, they didn't play fair. What they did is nothing short of war crime. So in this condition, it's better for the government of India to look after its own interests. Let them fight. As simple as that, man. Right? When Europe tells India that why are you buying oil from Russia, it's because of you that this whole problem started, man. You caused this problem to start. What would you expect? You'll take offensive weapons in the borders of Russia or any country for that matter. Think of India. Tomorrow China brings any offensive weapon and places them in Nepal. What are we going to do? Take roses in our hands and offer them. Clear? That's what we are looking at. Fine? So whenever you're looking at an issue, go deep. The more deep you go, you get clarity as well. The analysis becomes clear. Why? For the purpose of mains. Right? For mains, I need analysis. For prelims, it's already evident enough. I need facts. In prelims, they're typically playing based on facts. So I need the facts. But it's better to know those facts based on a background. This way what happens? Your preparation for mains also takes place, and at the same point of time, you can also prepare for prelims. Right? Don't mug facts. If you know the whole story, the facts will remain with you. Know the story. Clear? Now, the second one, how to prepare current affairs for prelims. In the beginning of the IR class only, I told you about one particular source. IDSA, Institute of Defense Studies and Analysis. The name has been changed. Today the name is Manohar Parikar Institute of Defense Studies and Analysis. Right. We are renaming everything. Anyway, so this was also renamed. I told you that I'm going to look at one particular area. Publications. Go for that, publications. Within the publications, I'm looking at papers and briefs. Actually, two areas within papers and briefs. One is IDSA comment, the other is backgrounder. These two. Okay. What's there in IDSA comment? Anything that's happening in the recent times. You don't need any newspaper, any other source. You just go through this one particular thing, IDSA comment. Any development that's happening internationally will get covered. Just one source which is good enough, whether for prelims or for mains. But for mains, as I told you, to go deep, not broad. That's why you need the backgrounder as well. Right? That's exactly what I told you. Okay, here, you need the IDSA comment as well and the backgrounder as well. Both of them. If IDSA comment helps you with current affairs, with whatever is happening right now, and again, let me repeat this, last 2 to 3 years, at least last 2 years. That is, since May 2022, please. I don't need any other source. Just one source is good enough for me. Everything is already organized. Let others do the work for you. How much time do you have in a day? 24 hours. Let others do the work for you. They're already doing the work for you. So why don't you take the advantage of it? And the best part of it, this is a government think tank and whatever you will be finding here is error-free. That's the best part. Clear? So these two can be good enough for your preparation purpose. Now clear? Too difficult? Now opening up the platform for you people to ask any question that you have. Anything, any doubt at all that you have. When you go broad, you actually just start. Have you seen how pigeons eat? You give a pigeon food in a bowl, grains in a bowl. The pigeon will start picking, it will spread across the area and it will start eating from there. It won't go deep inside the bowl. There are more grains inside the bowl. The pigeon can't eat that way. It will spread the grains first and then it will start eating from there. This way you can collect facts of current affairs, but then you have to mug those facts. The facts will not remain with you automatically. Since you don't know the background, since you have not gone deep, since you don't know why these things are happening, right? You have to mug those facts. But if you know the background, right, the facts will fall into place automatically. Right? And that way, you don't have to mug anything. They'll remain with you. That's what my point is. Go deep, not broad. Done? Let's wrap up the class today. Yeah.
The recent past, we have been seeing many international conflicts and
Lot of Gaza, Nagorno-Karabakh, Ukraine, one after another. Africa, four conflicts are going on in Africa right now.
are the
Well, my point is ki don't know a little bit about all of them. In fact, if you go through this particular thing, na, may I use? Let me do one thing. Just see the issues which have been covered. Each and everything that you can think of, they have already been covered for you. I've given you the source from where UPSC frames its questions. Right? That's not the Hindu, this particular source. Everything that you can think of, they all are here. If you don't use this particular source properly, nothing will be left out. Clear? So now it's on you how you use it. Okay? Anything else? Any other question? No? Chalo, then let's wrap it up. Enough. We are meeting again tomorrow morning, 6:30.
చూసినా కదా